alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Live After Reading. I'm Tim Niederreiter, and with me today is a guest whose podcast I've been on before as well, Kristine Raymond. Welcome to the show, Kristine.
Hello. Happy Halloween, and thank you for having me.
Oh, yes, indeed. Happy Halloween. It is actually that pumpkin day while we record this, so it's going to be great. And this show will be up pretty soon after, so it is still that season. Tremendous.
I think for some people that season lasts, a couple of months. There are some people
indeed.
that are really into Halloween.
We are at the height of it right now. Yeah, Halloween. It's a mindset as well as a season.
Absolutely.
So, Kristine, you write books and you podcast. What sort of stuff? Could tell us a little bit more about each of those things.
Sure. 6 years ago, and just kind of decided on a whim that I wanted to see if I could write a book. Didn't really have plans to write more than just that first book. And this past July, I published my 16th book. So I guess I decided I wanted to do it. But I started out writing historical Western romance, and that is the Hidden Spring series. And there are 9 books in that series. And while I was working on those, I kind of switched gears a little bit and started writing some contemporary romance. And there's a trilogy in the Celebration series that's out. And I wrote Seasons of Love, which is 4 seasonally themed stories about 4 different couples, but they're all intertwined. Their lives are all intertwined. So that's kind of cool. And I wrote an erotic drama called Tempted. And then I decided to just completely go insane and get out of the romance genre completely. And I wrote a cozy mystery, and that is what came out in July. It's called Finagled, and it's the first in the Finn's Finds mystery series.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. Oh, and I wrote a little nonfiction book, just a really quick read about my first year as an indie author, just kind of my thoughts and the things that I had experienced and what that was all like, because this whole indie thing was completely new to me. I didn't even know I wanted to be an author, and I certainly didn't know anything about publishing my own books, but I had a lot of help along the way from other authors, which is what is awesome about this community. And yeah, I'm always willing to pass what little bit of knowledge I have on to other authors and encourage them. And then, yes, as if I didn't have enough to do, a year ago, I started a podcast called Wordplay with Kristine Raymond, and it is a year old today. And I just aired yesterday. Yesterday was Wednesday, so the 108th episode aired yesterday. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. As you mentioned, I had you on the show, had a great time chatting with you and learning more about you. And podcasting is so much fun. And I love all the people I meet.
It's absolutely fun. And yeah, that's to me, that's the best part of this show in particular is your show is very similar, judging by the way when I was on it, is that when I just meet the best people on these shows, they're awesome. It's great to talk to everybody. And, there's just something about talking to other writers, especially, I think, but partially because I've always identified as a writer pretty much. I've always been creative in that way. And, it just never gets better when, talking around things with other people who do the same stuff and know about the same sort of things. Anyway, so you've written a lot of romance.
I think that's it. I have written a lot of romance, yes.
But go on. You were going to say something else. Sorry. We're having a little connection difficulty.
Oh, no, that's okay. No, what I was going to say about talking with other authors, I think it's because we share a common love. So we have that bond, whether you know the person you're talking to or not. And then there's also that opportunity to learn from them. And, an author will talk about and how they write or an idea they incorporate or how they do this or how they do that. And it's kind of like, oh, wow, I kind of like that. I never thought of trying it that way. Let me see if I can incorporate that into my routine. So there's just so much that goes on when you talk to these guests.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. I mean, especially when the show is, you go into a lot of these times, and both of us, I think, probably go into the episode not knowing a whole lot about the other person that are our guests. It's like meeting new people every time. It's great. Yeah.
That's
so,
there are some people that, quite honest, that they sign up for the show, and I've honestly never heard of them before, and I'll go and I'll do a quick, Amazon search and look for their books, and I have the best time chatting with them. And by the time we finish the conversation, it's like we're old friends. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. So we're having some connection difficulties, people. So bear with us, but it's okay. I think one thing I wanted to ask you about, though, definitely is your romance writing. So what's it like to write a bunch of romance like that and then transition into something that's not?
It was a challenge. It was a challenge to not have romance be the focus of the cozy mystery, because my main character Finn does have a love interest, and there were times that I was writing that and I would start a scene and I'm like, nope. It can't be all about that. It can't be all about them hooking up, or, well, not, they didn't hook. Well, I'm not going to say whether they hooked up or not. You'll just have to read Finagled. But I really had to kind of downplay the romance in that book. So it was a challenge, but it was fun too. I got kind of tired of writing romance all the time. Not that I don't love it. I'm a romantic at heart. I love happily ever afters. I love about these couples that have what seems like unsurmountable challenges, and then they, at the end there's the sky clears and they're together, and I just love that. But at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, I really want something different. So I will always go back to romance, I'm sure. In fact, I have the idea for another historical Western that isn't part of Hidden Springs. It'll be a separate book. But I also really enjoyed writing the cozy mystery too. So who knows? Who knows what I'll write next? I don't know. It's whichever character screams loudest in my head.
So the characters they jump out at you, and that's how you get started on a book, or is that usually how it works?
That is how it works. Yes. I do have probably easily 100 ideas for different stories. And I also have some of the characters and things like that, but it's whichever character starts shouting the loudest and just demanding that I write their stories, because that is all that I am. I am writing their stories. They're dictating it to me, and I'm just writing it down. I'm the conduit to having their story out in the world. And that sort of happened in 2018 because I was working on Finagled. Again, had said I wasn't writing any more on this cozy mystery. And all of a sudden, the characters from one of the Hidden Springs books, one of the side characters, just demanded his own story. And I thought I was done with the Hidden Springs series. I'd written 8 books. I'd wrapped it up. I was done. And nope, Micah insisted that I write his story. And so I came out with the 9th book in the series, Enduring Traditions. And that it didn't matter what else I was writing. I had to stop and write that story. So it's kind of cool too. Now, on the flip side, it's not so much fun when my imaginary friends stop talking to me because I still have these story ideas, but they're not giving me any information about how to write them down. So that's not so much fun.
Okay. Yeah, that is actually something I've kind of experienced too, even though I feel like I'm more behind the story maybe than you feel like you are with yours. I think one of the weirdest parts of writing is when I feel like, well, there's just nothing here. It's just all the words look they're like they're just dead on the page. It's that kind of thing. Even though I love writing, it's my passion, but I'm just kind of like, that's really not doing anything right now. That, and every story gets that way. Of course, usually with me, when I feel that way about every story, which is a little bit problematic because otherwise I could bounce around. Anyway, so when they stop talking to you, is there any trick you use to get them to talk to you again? You go with offer them gifts or something.
Nothing that I found. I've come to accept that my stories will happen in their own time. When I try to push through exactly what you just said, the words just look dead on the page. I can write pages, I write chapters, and if I'm not feeling it, if it's not syncing up, it's just trash. I mean, it's not that what I've written is bad. It's just it does not have that feeling. It's just not infused with those characters. And I've struggled with this. I've tried all the different techniques that are recommended. I am not one of those authors who can sit down and write every day. I just can't. It's either, for me, it's either there or it's not. And when it's not, it's frustrating, but that's why I like to do things like the podcast, because at least I feel like I'm accomplishing something. And I know that I could wake up and have everything be right there and have that rush and just be able to sit down and just write until the book's finished. So, it's still there somewhere. 16 books proves that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a lot of books. Yeah.
It just, it doesn't necessarily happen on my timetable.
Definitely. Yeah, I totally understand that. I used to write about a book a year, and I've gradually been able to increase my timetable on these things. But I mean, until now, it's like a book every couple weeks if I really put my mind to it. But it is really challenging to do, and I think that's the single hardest thing about my, because I recently switched to dictation. I think people who've listened to this podcast will probably recall this. I switched to dictation over the summer, and it's so much faster to make that rough draft. But then it is so difficult to actually get the story out in that time because it's, I discovery write, but if I don't have and I don't need much to start the story, but if I get lost in the middle, oh, help me, Lord help me. It is so difficult to do anything at all. If I go through a dry spell, it's like, okay, I lost a few days. I could have finished the book in a few days because that's how fast I'm going. Like I would say I was halfway through it. Like it could have been done in 3 days or whatever. Well, rough draft done. But my point is that I run out of things to say on some level there when I don't have fuel, for the fire, so to speak. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to go off there, but
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The story's still there for me, but it's just very plain. There's no life to it until I get that spark that says, okay, now it's almost like I have to be in character. And I've just never been able to flip that switch and put myself into it. And again, I've just accepted it's how I work. It's frustrating, yes, for sure, but it's me. It's how my brain works. And there you go. My creativity comes in spurt.
Yeah, absolutely. I I was just reading. Well, there's a couple books actually, and we can kind of get into the reading section here. If you've got any recommendations you want to read, both mine are nonfiction though, and I've recommended one of them before, and it's the Artist's Way because I'm recently rediscovering the key element of the Artist's Way, which is really just brain dump, right? It's just dictate or write a bunch of stuff before you want to do your main thing. So you just get all the junk out of your brain, and it does help kind of get into character, at least for me. It's like 3 pages longhand is the recommendation in The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Write that every morning, and then eventually you start feeling, like, oh, everything's just possible. That's kind of, and it actually is true. I tried it over the summer. It was really effective. Kind of fell off the wagon because 3 pages longhand takes me a long time to write because I'm pretty slow longhand. It takes like an hour almost to write that. Fill up with 3 college pages. It's a pain in the butt, but you know, uh, it's worth it because then I spend the rest of the day being far more productive in general. I mean, and I wonder how much. I'm not trying to find a cure for your sometimes you can write and sometimes you can't. Obviously, that's just how things are, perhaps. But you know, I've been going through a dry spell a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I need to get back in it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I stopped doing those morning pages, which is what we call those 3 longhand pages. Maybe I should get back on that because it worked really well over the summer, that kind of thing. So I'm always trying different things to get more productive, but it's hard for me to stick to anything, I guess is my point. Do you have any experience with stuff like that? Trying to get, well, I mean, you say you've tried a lot of stuff. So what kind of stuff have you tried, I guess?
I have tried dictation. I've tried writing longhand. I've tried writing next to water, moving from my office to somewhere else. Just kind of the different things that people suggest. I did read a good book over the summer called The Snowball Effect, and I can't remember who wrote that, but it was a very entertaining book. It's nonfiction, and it's about how to write and how to kind of dig into your story and how if you get this part done, then it snowballs into the next part, etc. But again, for me, and I've always been this way. I mean, this isn't anything new. This isn't just new to writing. I get very intensely focused on one thing, and then when that one thing is done, it's like all of my stores are depleted, and I have to move to something else, and then I'm throw myself 1,000% into that, and then when it's moving on to something else, and that's just again, that's just whether you want to call it personality or how my brain works or whatever it is. And for me, when I finish a book, I'm drained. I'm done. And then, of course, we go into the promotion mode, and that takes a whole different kind of mindset and different kind of energy. And it's so no. Short answer is no. I haven't found anything that works for me. I mean, I seriously wish that I could just wake up one day and say, okay, today I'm going to write and I'm going to get words on the page and get this accomplished. And I've tried just sitting down and saying, okay, no excuses to sit down and write. And like I said, that's when what comes out is not any good. And it's not even that it's not, I hear people say you can't edit a blank page, but what's there isn't anything that's usable because, again, it's not infused with the characters and the feeling of the story and all of that.
Yeah, actually, the sci-fi author Terry Mixon, he's talked about a similar feeling. He does. I think he does actually edit more, or he doesn't. I don't think he's quite as got it as extremely as you do. Let me say that, but he definitely talks about how and I think it was Dean Wesley Smith as well. How you got to be in the character. Maybe Terry got it from Dean, but it was because I know he studied under him at one point. He took some of his classes. But Dean would definitely talk about how, if you've got to write from the character, and if you're not writing from the character, it's all kind of like, what's going on? It's all drivel. And so I can definitely see where you're coming from there. and you just get lost if you don't have a character to guide you, kind of thing. You know, I'm talking about the royal you here, not just, you know, you specifically.
Well, when I'm writing, when I'm not feeling that muse, it's no different than if I'm writing a grocery list. I mean, I'm not connected to it. I'm not feeling it. And if I'm not feeling what I'm writing, then I'm not putting out my best work.
Quite, yeah, I believe that. That's for sure. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm getting some disruption in the call here, but that's okay. I mean, I think people get the idea. And yeah, so Kristine, anything you want to tell people about any other books you've read lately?
On the second Finds book series, it's called Finicky Eaters, and I don't have a release date in mind yet. Kind of depends on how often and how loudly those characters talk to me. I would like it to be out by the end of the year, but since tomorrow's November 1st, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Because again, there's more that goes into getting a book out there than just the writing part of it. So, but yeah, I'm planning several books in that series. And as I said, I have a historical Western story that I'm kind of playing around with. And I have another romance series in mind. And I have no shortage of ideas, that's for sure. And in the meantime, I'm working on the podcast and chatting with 2 a week. So that's a lot of fun and that keeps me busy. And yeah, just always have my hand into it in some way or another.
Awesome. Well, it's been great having you on the show, Kristine.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's been a pleasure to meet you again. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, it's always great to talk to people, and it's always great to talk to people, you know, I kind of already have a little rapport with, right? So, well, you know, it's a good time. We enjoy it.
Absolutely. That's why we do it.
So, Kristine, where can we find your website and stuff?
I am at www.kristine.com, and that is Kristine with a K. You can find links to all of my books there. You can find links to the podcast, Wordplay with Kristine Raymond, and my books are available everywhere on all platforms in ebook and paperback.
Absolutely. So, as for this podcast, you can find us at mentalcellarpublications.com. You can find my books at amazon.com. Demon Scroll is out. Unfortunately, Shadow Prince has been delayed a little bit, but it'll be out in November 22nd, people. This time it's Hell or High Water, and I choose neither. I choose the book coming out. So look for that on Amazon in a couple weeks here. 3 weeks, I think. Yeah. From the release of this. So, yeah, thanks for listening, everybody, and have a good evening. Happy Halloween.
That tears it.